What are the dominant pressures that are faced in order for privatization to happen? And like any economic thing, it is the demand side and the supply side. You have to look at both. So let us first begin to look at the demand side pressures. The first factor that can be cited to explain privatization in education is simple. Many parents want it, especially the elite class, the well-off, the parents who can afford it, parents who themselves are educated and believe in quality education want it. When parents want it, the demand is there. And so different organizations and groups step in to fill that pressure from the demand side. In many countries, education is viewed as an important way to gain social and economic advancement. If you want to move up, even the social ladder and the career ladder, then education has its role to play. And when parents understand that we don't want the same situations and conditions for our children, we want a better life for our children, then education is of importance. Therefore, the demand for education is high, and if governments cannot afford to provide and fund quality education, then parents seek private suppliers. So the government has a choice. It has a choice in terms of providing the same quality education, providing the same infrastructure, providing the same effective schooling, then parents would not be looking for private education suppliers. But when the government is not able to fulfill this need, then private suppliers have to step in, and parents will try out a variety of different private suppliers, seek the best, and send their children to those particular institutions. This type of demand is excess demand, over and above what is provided by the government. The government does provide something, little, much, whatever it is, it does provide something. But when the demand goes beyond that, beyond what the government can provide, it is excess demand. It is more than what the government is able to do. And this excess demand then is filled and supplied by private organizations or groups. In addition, many parents want for their children an education different from that offered in public schools. Public school education is not of good quality, is not very effective, and that's not the kind of education parents want for their children. So they want a different type of education, and this leads to differentiated demand. Now the education is there, but it is not what parents want. It's a different type of education that parents want, and therefore, to fill this need for differentiated demand, private sector has to step in, and this is true at all three levels, primary, secondary, and tertiary levels of education. The differentiated demand must also be met. So we have excess demand, and then we have differentiated demand, and both these demands of parents and families need to be fulfilled. The government is not going to be able to do it, and therefore the private sector must step in and try and fill the need. Both excess and differentiated demand have increased in recent decades because the government hasn't stepped up its efforts, and this is across Pakistan. The government needs to step up its efforts and provide better quality education, better facilities for teachers. There can't be teacher turnover, because when teacher turnover happens, consistency doesn't arise in a system or a school, and therefore both these demands have increased in recent years, with parents demanding access and education beyond what the government offers, and a different type of education, differentiated demand. Both these demands then are met by the private sector. Excess demand has grown because education has become more important for social and economic betterment. Especially with technology and the virtual world, this has become a reality. Many uneducated parents are now also aware that education is key if they want a different lifestyle for their children. So if you want high-paying jobs, then workers must have a high level of skills and credentials that are only available from good, quality, effective universities. This is tertiary level education. And to get into these good quality universities, you have to have good secondary level education. And for that, you have to have good primary level education. So eventually, from tertiary to secondary to primary, it boils down all the way down to the first level of education. Unless we can provide quality education at all these levels, it's not going to meet the demands of what families want for their children. Differentiated demand has grown for two reasons. One is that many public schools offer education that is standardized or uniform, which means it is this. It's at a plateau. It's the same. No matter where you go, this is the level of education you will get and nothing more. The greater the uniformity in public schools, the larger the number of parents who will seek differentiated education. So I can go from one government school to another, but I see the same thing. The same facility, the same infrastructure, the same student-teacher ratio. And as a parent, that's not what I want for my kid. And so I'm going to move away from public sector schools to private sector schools. The other reason is that economies and societies have become much more specialized. Many more trades and occupations have developed, and the education system must cater to these. And today, particular need is in the technology area. Technology now is not just the computer. There is much more. Telecommunication and infrastructure and all those things come into play. And as our children today will be leading different lives in a world very different from ours, where trades and occupations that will exist in 5, 10, 15 years, we don't even know right now. But our schools, colleges, and universities should be able to prepare students to meet those needs.